Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our presentation. Today, we will be discussing the topic of the situated construction of identity and positionality in multilingual classrooms. I'm Nasywa Kamila, and I will be the moderator for this presentation. And now, I will introduce our team members who will be presenting today. And let's give a warm welcome to Fithaloka Az-Zahra, who will be providing more information about our topic today. So, Fithaloka, time is yours.
Okay, thank you for Nasywa. Now I'm gonna explain about identity. Identity and language learning is one of the most vibrant areas of current research that considers language learning as a fundamentally social process. There are limitations to more traditional physical-linguistic model which see language learning as the main thing in the individualistic mental process. Many scholars are now interested to explore its social, cultural, and historical nature language learning. In line with this change, this view of language learning is a change in ideas of language learners. Learners are now seen in terms of their dialectical or mutually constitutive relationship with the social world as not constellations of like particular cognitive styles, affective orientations, and personality types. In this view, identity is understood as being constructed and negotiated within a particular discourse community. Although scholars have taken various conceptions of identity, two theoretical orientations that have been very influential in a second language acquisition, or SLA, is social-cultural framework and a post-structuralist or critical feminist framework. The former includes language socialization, (OX), in 1993, and a cumulative practice perspective, Leff and Wenger, in 1991, Wenger, 1998. Both which view language learning as a process of participating in the practices of a particular community and acquiring competence and membership in that community. Here, identity is conceptualized as further socially and intentionally when individuals interact with them other members with varying status, knowledge, and experience and negotiate their competence and positions. And many students have found this framework is useful in analyzing dynamic and situated processes, negotiation of second language or L2 identity. Identity also comes primarily from this social-cultural framework and defines it as an individual sense of who they are in relation to a particular social context or their community of practice in which they participate. Post-structuralist and critical feminist identity perspectives are first introduced in L2 research by Bonnie Norton. Investment, according to Norton in 2000, ignores the socially and historically constructed relationship of learners to the target language and their often ambivalent desire to learn and practice it. Interest in identity and language learning has continued to grow for the past decade and a half. In 1997, Norton edited a special topic issue of TESOL Quarterly on Language and Identity that include 5 extensive research studies conducted in 5 different countries. In 2002, a new journal devoted to this area of research, the Journal of Language, Identity, and Education was launched. In recent years, a number of books and edited volumes addressing issues of identity, language, and education have also been published. Okay, next is scholars have investigated different groups of students using various research approaches. Most in general, studies of identity in SLA have used ethnographic or qualitative case study approaches where their researchers seeks to gain a holistic understanding of a particular research context and participants by using multiple data collections, methods such as observation, interviews, and open-ended questionnaires. Questionnaires. So, another common thing the approach used is a narrative study from which the main data comes participant narratives such as diaries, journalists, and a series in-depth explanation interviews. The types, learners, and the learning contexts that are typically examined including adult in adult classrooms, workplace or home, students at post-secondary institutions, teenagers in secondary school, and children in early childhood school. I'm gonna explain these four type learners and the learning context. Okay, first one is research adult immigrant. Studies on adult immigrants have most commonly investigated how this population often struggles to reconstruct their identities as the power structures related to race, ethnicity, gender, class, language, and so on in their host communities tend to limit their identity options. And Sir Pratyuk investigated the identity information of other immigrants to Canada. The 20 participants in this study, in contrast to the women in Northern study, considered themselves as professionally successful. The study contrasts to the women in Northern study, considered themselves as professionally successful and highly proficient in their target language. Through a series of interviews, Sir Pratyuk identified three common strategies used by the participants for constructing such a positive identities. There is generating a self-motivating inner dialogue, gaining access to the social networks of native speakers, and adhering to an imagined community of successful multilingual individuals. Next is identity research of post-secondary students. Research has also examined LT students in post-secondary institutions. The focus of the studies with this population is usually students' identity negotiation as part of their academic discourse socialization, through which the new students become increasingly competent in of their academic discourse socialization, through which the new student become increasingly competent in academic ways of knowing, speaking, and writing as they participate in their various academic practice. Marita in 2004 analyzed the varied ways in which the students negotiated their competence, roles, and identity in their new academic context. A notable finding was that students' membership identities were constructed locally and instructionally within a given classroom context, and that therefore the same individual could develop different types of identity and participate differently across different classroom contexts. Next, identity research on multilingual adolescents. Studies on studies on multilingual adolescents have documented the complex, often unsettling features of identity negotiation by learners of this age group. Kay and Wang in 1996 two-year ethnographic study analyzed the identity construction of core Chinese immigrants studying in the U.S. high school. By examining the students' literacy experiences, the authors found that students were subjected to multiple discourses in their environment that were characterized by asymmetrical power relations. These discourses included colonialist or racialized discourses on immigrants, model minority discourses, Chinese cultural nationalist discourses, social and academic school discourses, and gender discourses. While being questioned firstly by these discourses, the individual student exercise their human agency by constructing period identity, which in turn had a significant impact on their different learning priorities. And the last one is identity research on young children. So hey, in 2000, longitudinal ethnographic project followed a group of children with minority language background in kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 2, and examine how they come to inhabit temporally and in contradictory ways, particular identities in their classroom. Tohei found that the specific practices of their classroom, for example, using their own words and ideas in grade 1, contributed to stratification of the classroom community, which then led to the exclusion of some minority children from certain activities, researches, and identities. So that's all for me. Thank you. I will return it to moderator.
Okay, thank you very much, Fithaloka Az-Zahra. So now let's move to the next discussion, which is about the situated construction of identity and positionality in a multilingual classroom. The situated construction of identity and positionality in multilingual classroom refers to the process by which students' identities and positions are shaped in a classroom environment that involves more than one language. Identity involves how individuals recognize themselves in a specific linguistic, cultural, and social context, while personality refers to the role that individuals take on in a language and social interactions in a multilingual classrooms. This is important because identity and position influence how students participate, communicate, and learn from each other in a multilingual context. So we will explore how students construct their identity and position in classroom context that involves more than one language. This is an interesting topic because identity and position play an important role in language learning, especially when students interact in a multilingual environment. We will use research examples that illustrate how these identities and position can affect students' learning experiences. Next slide, please. Okay, and then the research example is draws from a multiple case study on the academic socialization and identity negotiation of Japanese graduate students at a Canadian university. In this study, the researchers explored how students participated in the class discussions, the types of identities or position they constructed through their class participation, and how these identities and position influence their academic participation and socialization. So let's look at an example from a study involving two university students, Shiho and Emiko in course C. In this study, these two students were graduate students pursuing a linguistic program at the university. They were attending a class that focused on English in a multilingual environment. Emiko, one of the research subjects, had difficulty in actively participating in the class due to her lack of confidence in speaking English and anxiety about judgment from her classmates. And that's difficulties experienced by Emiko. And the strategies that used by Emiko is communicating with the instructor and expanding interaction with classmates outside of class. And Emiko showed dedication through unsolicited written assignment and small research project, and successfully overcoming barriers by increasing self-confidence through open communication with the instructor. And on the other hand, Shiho, another research subject, was more confident in communicating in English due to her diverse background. She had the motivation to actively participate in class and convey accurate information about Japanese culture to her classmates. And she also avoids talking excessively about topics that may not be of interest to her classmates. And Shiho's participation helps to establish her identity as an engaged and competent student in the academic environment. So Emiko faced challenges in participating due to her lack of confidence and anxiety about judgment. However, she used communication strategies with the instructor and classmates and showed dedication through written assignment and small research project. On the other hand, Shiho has an advantage in communicating due to her diverse background, but she also needs to avoid talking excessively about topics that may not be of interest to her classmates. From this research example, we can conclude that identity and position play an important role in students' learning experiences in multilingual classes. Individuals' challenges, weaknesses, and advantages can affect how they participate and interact in such learning environment. Therefore, it is important that we understand the role of identity and position in language learning to create an inclusive and supportive environment for all students. And then the last one is about implication. Next slide, please. Implication in the context of multilingual learning. In the context of multilingual learning, an understanding of students' identity construction and positioning has important implication. First of all, it helps teachers and researchers to recognize and appreciate the diversity of student experiences in the classroom. By understanding that each student brings a unique identity and position, teachers can design learning strategies that are more inclusive and responsive to individuals' needs. And then the teachers can creating a classroom atmosphere that supports the exchange of ideas and experiences, facilitates students' centered learning, adoption of differentiation and personalization approaches in support of its students' academic progress and personal development. And then the last one is establish an inclusive, collaborative, and responsive classroom environment. So the conclusion from our presentation today, we have explored the situated construction of identity and positionality in a multilingual classroom environment. We saw how students' identities play an important role in their learning experiences and how social, cultural, and historical contexts influence language learning. With this understanding, we can see that importance of considering students' identities in the context of language learning. And that's all from us. Thank you to Fithaloka Az-Zahra for your contribution to our presentation today. Also, thank you to all of you who have watched our presentation. We hope that the information we have conveyed can be useful to you and apologize for any shortcomings and mistakes. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.